The Entrepreneur's Library, episode 59.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur's Library, the only book-centric podcast that reviews all the top-selling business books and shares authors' perspective firsthand. This is your resource to finding the next great book that will enable you to grow personally and professionally. Welcome your host, Wade Danielson.
Thank you for joining us on the EL. Today we have Mark Babbitt and Ted Koine, and both of them are authors of A World Gone Social. Welcome, Mark and Ted, and thank you for joining us on the Entrepreneur's Library.
Thank you very much for having us, Wade.
We're thrilled to be here, Wade. Thank you.
Absolutely. Will you take just a moment, each of you, to introduce yourselves and tell us just a little bit about you personally?
Age before beauty, Mark.
Oh, I see. Well, Wade, I am Mark Babbitt. I'm the CEO and founder of a talent community online called U-Turn, where we help college students, recent graduates, and young careerists ascend into the workforce as gracefully as possible, given our economy and the challenges they're facing. I'm also the president of switchandshift.com, a leading leadership site. And I'm the author of A World Gone Social, How Companies Must Adapt to Survive, with Ted Koine.
And I'm Ted Koine. I'm co-founder and chairman of Switch and Shift and author with Mark.
Thank you for both sharing that. Now let's jump right into your book that you just mentioned, A World Gone Social, which was actually just made available for purchase. And gentlemen, we're going to move fairly quickly, but we're going to cover the top questions that our audience, our listener/reader really wants to get answered. And the first one is, what was the inspiration behind writing A World Gone Social?
All right, so this is kind of funny, but we didn't realize we were writing A World Gone Social at first. It's a 5-year project, maybe a year or more in, before we realized this was a book. But this is how it started for me. I was looking at, speaking with business leaders, and every time the word change comes up, terror gets in their eyes, and it quickly passes because they have to be brave. But I was saying to myself, it didn't used to be like that. Change used to be something that happens occasionally, and now people are they don't know what to do about it. So I noticed again and again that there was a whole lot of influence from social media, and it was just growing and growing and growing. And social media wasn't really the story, though. So fast forward a couple of years of just observing trends and interviewing leaders. And so Mark and I are working on this book. He was coming at it from a different angle entirely, but a complementary angle. He was coming at it from the career space. Mark?
Well, and I think, Wade, as we began working on the book together, the one common theme was the state of denial that entrepreneurs, business owners, leaders, and when I say leaders, anywhere from a team of 6 to 600,000, they were in denial about this change that was already occurring, and that we were moving from the industrial age. We'd already passed through the information age and the digital age, and we were squarely in the social age. And as we interviewed leaders, it became very clear that nobody was ready for that. We didn't yet realize how much this was impacting our lives and our business.
So we talk about it all the time, but there might be 100 to 150 plus different books that come out each month on entrepreneurship alone. And not that that's what your guys' book is purely on, but this next question I like because it helps separate you guys from the rest of the crowd. And so that's what makes your book different from others regarding the same topic.
Well, I think, Wade, I think the primary differentiator is that we are trying to first set the stage and say, look, guys, we are moving from the industrial age to the social age, and maybe it's not going really well for you now. Maybe change does scare you. Maybe we're afraid of losing control as autocratic based leaders in a big corporation, especially the enterprises that we never talk to our customers. We talk at our customers. We talk at our employees. And in the social age, that's so different for us. We must engage. We must actively listen. And I think while a lot of books talk about how to be a better entrepreneur or talk about how to lead better, or even how to use social media better, what we're trying to do is to say social media allows you to first be a better human being. It helps you connect. It helps you listen. And I think that's a different take on things, because again, it's not something we learned in business school. It's not something we learned from our mentors. It's certainly not something we learned from our fathers or our mothers. Leaders were told they needed to have all the answers, and we're saying, you know what, you don't. You need to have a great network that knows all the right people and has all the right answers. But you, as the leader, you don't have to be that guy anymore.
And the really important thing about what this book introduces to leaders is the power of disruption. So you can either have change happen to you, as happens with a lot of people in leadership positions right now, and that's why they're terrified, or you can bring the change to your industry. And what we're saying is, here is your 15-chapter guidebook on this is how you do it. People are still learning industrial age business concepts in business school. They're still learning it on their jobs. And there are the occasional company that gets it, that says, wait a minute, that's old. That's out. And there are new ways that are much better. We're going to tap that and really turn the tables on our competitors. And that's why you see some companies delighted that we're in the social age, while a lot of them are struggling.
How would you guys suggest the reader actually engage with your book? Is this the kind of book that they should jump in and jump out, grabbing pieces that they need? Or is this one they should really start from the beginning and finish?
Well, Wade, I think the book, what we tried to do in the first section of the book is set the stage and to say, welcome to the social age. And here's what is radically different than what you're used to. Here's what a company looks like when it actively listens to its customers and its stakeholders. Again, something we didn't have to do in the past. Here's what the social employee looks like, right? What does it mean to a company when employees can now talk to each other and everybody has knowledge now, not just the leaders, not just the drivers, but everybody has knowledge. Everybody has communication. And then even the potential employees and the recruiters themselves, how has social impacted them? There's no secrets anymore with Glassdoor and social media and Indeed.com. We can find out everything about every candidate and every company, right? And how has that changed the playing field? And I think a big part of it is, in my favorite parts of the first section where we're setting the stage, is we talk about engagement is such a buzzword now, but underneath that, it's so important to understand just what that means to business now and what happens not only when you do engage and all the good stuff that comes from that, but what happens when you choose not to, and what impact that has on your employees, on your products, on your innovation, everything. And then finally, we talk about how we built U-Turn and Switch and Shift, and that is, how are you going to build a community online and offline? How are you going to build a community around your product or your brand or your service? And what does that mean in the social age? And that, Wade, is so different than everything else we've been used to doing. To actively engage and build a community around a product and build brand ambassadors and build advocates and let them talk about you so you don't have to. That's a whole different world to most leaders.
So, Wade, to answer your original question about building on what Mark said, but about, can you just pick this up in the middle? Can you just start on chapter 11 and benefit from it? Yes. But what we did was we set out to lay the stage and build the foundation and grow on it. There are examples that harken back to earlier in the book. And we really, as readers, we read a lot. Mark listens to audiobooks all the time. I read about a book a week, and a business book a week. And the most important thing is to suck people in with stories, with real life examples they can stick their teeth into, with humans who are doing what we recommend they do, or what we recommend they do not do sometimes, depending on the example. And then to keep them going with the stories, the examples, to illustrate our points, so that it isn't a dry treatise that people can only stomach one chapter at a time, and then they put it down and maybe never get back to. So we've really gone out of our way to make this a compelling read, because that's the kind of book we want to read. And we don't want to tell people to buy our book if it isn't a page turner.
Excellent. So, Mark, you already kind of started to go through the book a little bit, but I really want to take the time now. And again, this is my favorite part of the interview as well. but hand the mic over to both of you and allow you both to really take us through from front to back of what your book is all about. And again, you're talking to this entrepreneur who might be on their drive home, or they're out for a walk, and they're trying to figure out if your guys' book is their next great read.
Well, we want the reader to jump into this and say, I'm not even sure I understand the problem yet, because I think social's still a fad, maybe, or I see my teenagers on Facebook instead of doing their homework, and so we wanted to write a book where people would read this and say, wow, there has been this catalyst, there has been this huge shift in the business climate, and I'm missing it. Or in some cases, we're doing it, but we're doing it all wrong. We're using social media to talk at people instead of listen to them. And so that's how we start the book. And I already went through, some of the theories, but really it's all about this. It's, especially in the first section of the book, is what's going on now? What does it mean to your business? What does it mean to your personal brand? Not just your corporate brand, but your brand as a leader. And once you identify that, how are you going to build a team, right? Team building, recruiting is so different in the social age than it was in the industrial age. Let's just say I drank the Kool-Aid. I get it. I want to be a social leader. How do I build a team around that? And so that's where we start. And Ted, you're the main architect of Section 2. Why don't you take the listeners through Section 2?
Which hopefully is a good thing. Your readers can decide for themselves whether I get credit for that or shake of the head. But that is my favorite section. So Section 2, we really set up, okay, we've laid the foundation. We've already told you how to build your community, how to recruit, how customers hold all the cards, and employees increasingly are holding all the cards. Now, let's talk about the tremendous below surface shift that social has forced on our business climate in the last 6 years. So in this book, we talk about three chapters: the death of large, flat, the new black, and the power of open. So that will mean nothing to you right now, but let's start with the death of large. The death of large is that large companies are no longer at an advantage because of economies of scale, the way they were in the industrial age. They are at a tremendous disadvantage because they're lumbering bureaucratic beasts with tons of overhead that are afraid to make decisions. And as much as they can learn to act quickly, like the smallest garage startup, they will remain in business and will thrive. We have all sorts of advice on how to make that happen, and also sorts of examples of companies that are making that happen. The next one is flat, because as we build out the death of large, we studied some really, really remarkable companies, and they are they operate by self-management, which is not, okay, you do what you want at all. It's not that. It's when you employ mature, responsible adults, you don't really need to manage these people. So get off their backs, enable them instead, make sure they know what is expected of them, let them do it. So we talk about some incredibly profitable, thriving companies that are doing that, including one company that is much more profitable per employee than Google. And then the last chapter to round that section out is open. Ordinary people, extraordinary network. Now, what this means is not that everyone is just an average Joe. What it means is that, okay, we're all good at something. If we're an entrepreneur, we're probably really good at building businesses, for instance. However, we've all got deficits, of course. We can't be good at everything. But the people in our networks are an invaluable resource for us to go out and find the talent we want. So building your personal network and building your corporate network is the key to success. And this chapter really is the key to social success. So throughout the rest of the book, we talk about open. Okay, so that's section 3. And then we build on open throughout the rest of the book. So, for instance, Mark, why don't you tell us about the blue unicorns?
Well, we actually borrowed the phrase the blue unicorn from our friend Jim Clausen at IBM. We were sitting around IBM Connect one evening, and he said, my challenge professionally and personally is that the social leader is so rare. I call them the blue unicorn. And we really grabbed onto that. And we had a very long discussion, and it turned into an entire chapter on what exactly a blue unicorn looks like, and how do we get that person so they're not so rare, so we can learn whatever it takes. And so section 3, and this chapter in particular, is when we actually start giving the reader the how-to, and not just for themselves, but to assess the leadership all around them. Maybe you're not the CEO, and maybe your CEO is not exactly socially enabled, and maybe the farthest thing from it. How can you lead anyway? How can you enable your customer service team and your marketing team and your sales team to become social, even if the CEO isn't? So we start giving these very real tools wrapped around a very real sense of urgency that this is happening right now. And it may not be happening at your company yet, but it is everywhere in the world, and including your competition. So we set the stage, we help you get there, and we also talk about the red flags. We say, look, you really have to look out for the people that are going to come after you and say, oh, your company's not social yet. Boy, do I have a deal for you. And I'm a ninja, I'm a guru, I'm an expert, and I'm going to now sell my services to you. And so we kind of walk through some of those red flags. And in this chapter, we also had the privilege of pointing out some true CEOs of big companies that are social and are doing amazing work. So we get to learn a lot from the examples. Now, once we get that, and we get people thinking about being a blue unicorn, thinking about being a social leader, now we really dive into what we set the stage for in the first section of the book, and that is, how are we going to build a team socially enabled, putting the customer first, actually diving into our open networks, again, ordinary person, extraordinary network, and building a cast of internal champions, and building our employer brand through caring about our customer and each other. And again, we work very hard here to give you companies that are doing this very well already and letting you learn from their success. So we aren't reinventing the wheel. So we aren't just saying, look, I understand how important culture is, but give me some examples. Well, here they are right here in the book, and we're going to walk you through some of these examples step by step.
Then rounding out that section, we have a chapter on customer experience and how to make that happen in the social age, and another on social media marketing. So we like to call it marketing, but we realize we've got some the world has some catching up to do. They're still saying social media marketing is a thing. It's not a thing. Telephone marketing isn't a thing. It's called picking up the telephone. Same thing with social. So we give examples of how marketing is done in this age when trust is everything, trust and credibility. And rather than telling people how great your company is, you provide them value and say, oh, by the way, we've got some services for you if you're looking for them. So we have some really good example companies that are nailing that, including CEO.com, CMO.com. The SAP Business Innovation blog is just phenomenal, and it's showing a return on investment. So it isn't just a nice to have, it's a, boy, we're getting customers this way. Then the last two chapters of the book, Wade, really, okay, if you don't get social by now, or more likely if your boss doesn't get it and there's nothing you can say that will convince him, show him this chapter. Talk about the social circle of life. So forever, we've had this trouble with social media. Is there a return on investment? And a big part of that problem is that people are measuring the wrong thing. Huge problem. You have to be there where your customers are. And for a while, it was impossible to really to prove, okay, here's the dollars and cents of this. But through advanced analytics, which is the last of five technology components that have really transformed in the last 6 years, and going forward, they're transforming even more. Now you can measure exactly, okay, what efforts are working, what efforts aren't working. So that was a lot of fun to write. It's a little, I'll tell you what. So Mark and I agree. The two chapters that are really going to get you: Open and The Social Circle of Life. Wow, I'm glad I picked this book up. And Mark, you want to talk about the end of the book?
Well, yes, Wade. The very end of the book, it wasn't on our list when we started writing this, but when we were talking to all these leaders and all these want to be leaders about what it was like to lead in the social age and to be this blue unicorn, we actually ended up saying, look, what's this going to look like? I mean, look how much has changed in the last 5 or 6 years since the social age began. What does this look like 4, 5, 6 years from now? And in some cases, even 4, 5, 6 months from now. So we had a little fun, and we got to talk about how this might evolve. And we created our own version of a social wish list. We talked about how open is going to become the norm worldwide, not just in the US, not just in North America, not just in Europe, but everybody is going to jump on this because it's how we innovate and create in the social age. It's how we compete as organizations. And it also allows us to compete with anyone. We don't have to be that big enterprise level corporation with insanely deep pockets. People are doing amazing things using open out of their garage. I mean, it's an entrepreneurial revolution, this concept of social age and open. And then we finally talked about some of the warning flags. Digital sharecropping. Are you building your company? Are you building your foundation on somebody else's platform? Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is. Are you sharecropping, or are you actually building intellectual property that has a possibility of having a lasting impact on your customers and consumerism in general? And then eventually we ask people to welcome the idea of social chaos, because here's the reality: we don't know where this is going. The best social media minds in the world don't know where the social age is going to take us. So we ask you to be open to that and to embrace the chaos, to be a little rebellious, to be heretical about this process, and just own it and live it and go through the motions with us. And so we end the book on what I hope is a positive, inspiring, but mostly an actionable note.
Excellent. So first of all, you guys did an awesome job of really laying out your book and letting us know exactly what it's about. I had so many thoughts go through my mind as you're talking about this, things that I already know I'm going to read in your book and go, oops, shouldn't have done that, or or some of those. So I appreciate that. I'm always looking for books that kind of give me a little punch to the gut, and I know I need to change some stuff. But so you guys went through a ton of information. And that's what makes this next question, I think, kind of mean. And that's that out of everything you just discussed with us, if the reader can only take away one concept or principle or action item out of everything you just discussed, what would you guys want that to be?
I have my answer. Mark, you want to give it a try?
Oh, I might be taking your answer.
No,
open is just so... It's so eye-opening, Wade, to when we talk about this and you see people that are living it, or maybe they just missed it and they didn't know how to phrase it. And you talk about the power of collaborating with your colleagues, employees you'd never met before, vendors, even your competitors, and certainly your customers, right? When you start getting all these people in the same room and saying, guys, here's our challenge, or here's the opportunity we have in front of us. In the old days, we would say, here's the challenge, here's how we're going to solve this, let's get to work. And again, the leader would have all the answers. Now with open, all we have to do is say, here's the challenge, or here's the opportunity, here's why this is important, how are we going to fix this? And then you just get to watch the brains engage and the aha moments just start flying. And yes, this could have happened in the industrial age. Yes, it could have happened in all these bureaucracies, but it was kind of the same answers from the same people done the same way all the time. Through open, it's so much more innovative and it's so much more creative, and companies are finding it makes things happen so much faster. That's without a doubt what I want people to get out of the book is, don't be afraid of letting go of control. Open yourself up. Bring the right people in the right room at the right time and get stuff done.
Awesome. You did. You took my thing.
Well, then, Ted, we'll give you the next question.
Okay.
Do you guys have a favorite quote from your book? Something that you guys wrote that you think really resonates, or something that maybe some people who've already got a hold of your book, audience members, have told you that maybe they're quoting? Maybe you see it on Twitter or something.
We've got two that we just use all the time, almost every page of the book. I am exaggerating, but not by far. More social, less media. And what that means is the more social is a tool to connect people. Don't broadcast at them. That's the less media part. Connect with humans, engage with them, have conversations with them as a brand as well as an individual. You find the people and the brands that are getting ignored are the ones that are seeing themselves. They're setting themselves up as the expert from on high. And you watch your brand's, Twitter feed or Facebook post. Oh, here's, our latest blog about us. Here's our latest press release. Here's what our CEO had to say. No engagement, no human there. So people just don't bother to follow that one. And that's got, a huge multinational corporation with 10,000 Twitter followers. It's been, online for 15 years. 15. It's been online for, 3-4 years now. Really? Is that the best you can do? It's because of the mentality. And the same thing with people who I find, professors are really good at this. Oh, I'm the expert. I'm not going to talk to people. I'm just going to share my wisdom. You know what? You're really easy to ignore. So more social, less media is really the ethic of the social age. That's what I got for you.
Excellent. Mark, did you have one as well?
Well, I do, and actually, I'm gonna give my co-author full credit for this, Ted. And this is once you get through the foreword and the introduction, this is how we lead the book, and this is the quote: "Change happens only as the result of insurmountable market pressure," and that kind of sets the tone for everything we're talking about. That if we left it up to our Fortune 100 CEOs, they would keep doing the same thing the same way because that's what they're comfortable with. That's their comfort zone. They will not change unless they're forced to. And that's what the social age is doing. It's forcing us to think and be and do different. And so that's my favorite quote from the book.
Excellent. And that's a great leadway into... Oh, did you have something to say, Ted?
No. I just... okay. I like that one too. Thanks.
What you just said was a great leadway into our last question, because we're talking about paradigm shifts here. And after listening to your book, I think there's going to be a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs that are listening, and some things that you've said they've already known are going to need to create change. So, Mark and Ted, if there was only one book you could recommend to your listeners based on the way it's impacted your life, what would that be?
Ted, you get to go first this time.
All right. I'll tell you what I like. A couple years ago, and just maybe two, I read Adam Grant's Give and Take. And in it, he talks about people who are naturally born givers. They just give without thinking about, getting back. People who are matchers, that's most of us. We kind of, we make sure if I do a favor for you, you owe me now. And people who are takers, no need to spend time on the takers. We all know who they are. I read that book. I loved it so much that Adam's become a buddy of mine, and he endorsed our book. His book, really, Give and Take, is the ethos of the social age. The world is going to be taken over by relentless givers rather than by, takers and matchers. And that's a better world to live in.
And Wade, I tend to go old school with those business books. Although I love Adam Grant's and Daniel Pink's work. There's so much contemporary work out there that's certainly worth reading. But The two books that made the biggest difference in my professional life were Crossing the Chasm by Jeffrey Moore and Good to Great by Jim Collins. Though that set the stage for me because it helped me realize that we can't just be the biggest, we have to be the best. And it starts from the newest intern all the way up to how the CEO thinks about his business. And that's how I've tried to live my professional life, and I think a lot of that went into the writing of A World Gone Social.
It's a great recommendations. So, Mark and Ted, before we depart, can you guys both recommend the best way for our listeners to get more information on you and your guys' new book, A World Gone Social?
Very easy. Same answers for both of us. It's aworldgonesocial.com. And from there, you can connect with us on Twitter and everything else. But the nice thing about directing people there is it'll tell you about the book, and you can download a free chapter and see if you want to invest in the rest of the book.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, if you don't mind, Wade. We have made a habit in our businesses and our lives of living what we talk about in the book, and so we want people not just to go check out the book, but if they have a question for us, even if they, you don't buy the book, fine, but you want more information, reach out to us on Twitter or email, talk to us. We'll talk back. We promise.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you both for coming on today. Ted, did you have something to say?
I've been told I talk back my whole life.
and now it's a good thing, right? Awesome. Well, thank you guys for taking us through your book. There's so much great new relevant information that you guys are talking about in this. So I can't wait to dive in myself. And but again, thank you for coming on and sharing it with our audience.
Thank you for having us, Wade. It was a real honor.
Thank you, Wade.
Absolutely. Thanks again for listening in today. If you would like to get your hands on A World Gone Social or any of the other resources mentioned by Mark or Ted, just look at the show notes at the elpodcast.com.
Looking for your next book idea? Head over to the elpodcast.com, where Wade shares his amazing resource, the top 10 business books recommended by over 500 entrepreneurs, with you for free. That's the elpodcast.com. Till the next time, keep it on the EL.